Hello everyone! In this lesson, we will learn how to use custom image sizes on the front end of our website. So for example, in our previous lesson, we added custom image sizes for portrait and landscape, right? So WordPress will automatically generate all of these different sized images, different copies of the same photo, and now we just want to learn how to use the different sizes on the front end. So as an example, on a professor detail screen like this, we would want to pull in an image that is taller than it is wide. So if we jump into our text editor and open up functions.php, you'll remember in our previous lesson that we created two new image sizes, and we gave them nicknames of Professor Landscape and Professor Portrait. So if we want to use one of these sizes on the professor detail screen here, let's jump into the template file that controls this screen, which is singleprofessor.php. And if we scroll down a bit, here we see the code that is responsible for outputting the featured image or the post thumbnail. And all we need to do is go inside the parentheses for this function, and for the argument, we just type out the nickname of one of our image sizes. So for example, let's say Professor Portrait. Go ahead and save that. Cool, and that's all it takes. So now we can see we are using the portrait image here. And then if we go back to the biology program page, remember this screen is still using the really large high resolution copy of the image, right? If I right click and choose open image in new tab, you can see that this image is almost 5,000 pixels wide. So instead, we want to pull in the image that uses our Professor Landscape image size here. So the template file that controls this screen is single-program.php. Let's scroll down a bit. Here's the related professor's custom query. Right below that, here's the while loop that controls the HTML that gets generated for each professor. Here we can see the function thePostThumbnailURL. And let's just go inside the parentheses for that function and give it an argument of our image size nickname. So Professor Landscape. Let's go ahead and save that. Cool, and if we test it out by right-clicking and choose Open Image in New Tab, we can see that image is a reasonable 400 pixels wide. Cool. Okay, now at this point, let's change gears a bit and talk about how our images are being cropped. So for example, if I click on to the Meowsalot detail screen, obviously this image was cropped in order to create this portrait aspect ratio. Now by default, WordPress will crop towards the very center of the image. Now for this particular photo, that worked okay. But what if we had another photo where the subject was off to the side? So the question is, how can we have more control over how the images are getting cropped? Well, let me show you something. Back in our text editor, let's jump into functions.php, and you'll remember that when we created these new image sizes, we said cropping is set to true. Now, a value of true will just crop the image towards the center, but if you want more control, you could provide an array. And for the first value, you could either say left, right, or center. And for the second value, we can say either top, center, or bottom, right? So the horizontal and vertical corner that you want to crop towards. However, personally, I never use this feature because images are not all the same, right? There's not a one-size-fits-all cropping strategy for images. So let's set that back to true. And I'll show you what I do on websites where center-based cropping is not what I want. Right, so what do I do when I need to crop each image differently? Well, luckily there's a perfect plugin for this situation. So in the admin dashboard, let's hover over plugins in the sidebar and click Add New. Let's use this field to search for Manual Image Crop. Here's the plugin that I'm looking for. Its name is literally Manual Image Crop. At the time of this filming, it has about 20,000 installs. Let's go ahead and install that, and then activate it. Okay, and now let's give ourselves a goal. let's imagine that I want to crop this cat image differently. So in the WordPress admin, let's go into Professors, and let's edit the Dr. Meowsalot post. And over in the featured image area, we see this brand new option named Crop Featured Image. So let's click on that. And the first thing I want to draw your attention to are these different tabs up here. So we see Thumbnail, Professor Landscape, and Professor Portrait. So I don't need to customize the thumbnail size, but let's go ahead and click on Professor Landscape. And now if I try to resize this crop area, what's nice is it's automatically constrained to the aspect ratio that we defined in our functions file. So for the landscape, maybe I really want to zoom in tight on the cat's face like this. Maybe a little bit more exaggerated. I'm happy with that. So then if you scroll down a little bit, there's a crop it button. Let's click that. Cool, and now if I go back to the front end of my website and refresh this screen where we are pulling in the Professor Landscape photo, cool, we see our updated cropped version. And if we go to the detail screen that uses a portrait version, if we want to customize this crop, back in the admin, we can just scroll back up and click on the Professor Portrait tab. And now we are constrained to that aspect ratio. So maybe I want to zoom in really tight on the cat's face, like this. Let's scroll down a little bit, click Crop It. And then if I jump back to the front end and refresh this screen, here we see that updated cropped image. Now, not every website will need fine-grained control over cropping like that, but I think this plugin is a lifesaver if you want to have art direction over your different sizes of images. Now, that's going to bring our focus on featured images to a close, but we are not done yet when it comes to learning how to manage uploaded images. In our next lesson, we will finally learn how to make this top banner area dynamic. So in addition to replacing this annoying "don't forget to replace me later" text that I'm sure you've been staring at for this entire course, in addition to making that dynamic, we will also learn how to set things up so that each post and each page can upload its own unique background image here, right? Instead of this default fallback beach or ocean photo. Learning how to set this up should be a lot of fun. Let's keep things rolling, and I will see you in the next lesson.